Good evening. Welcome to Happy Hour in the Land. This is a podcast where we want to reach out and talk to you, the Cleveland sports fan, and get together so we can have our own little therapy session, talk about what's happening in Cleveland sports. Like I said, it's a therapy session that with liquid libations.
There we go, Golden. That's right.
Today's libation for me is the Fatheads Brewery Alpha Ambush in the IPA. Of course, canned over here in Middleburg Heights. So, great restaurant if you've ever had their Bumbleberry beer. Really good. So I've never tried this before, the Alpha Ambush. I've never tried it before, but I'm willing to give it a shot and see what happens. What are you drinking over there?
Excellent. Well, now I'm all excited about your drink of the Alpha Ambush there. But I'm doing the classic old-fashioned drink with Angel's Envy with my recent gift, the Dogfather glass that I got for Christmas. And that's supposed to be a picture of me and my two dogs, Marty and Archie. But here's a cheers to you, Gome, and to all of you back at home. Click.
I even got my own my Winking Lizard glass because that's another Cleveland staple.
Winking Lizard, the Bowman's Burger. Oh, how I missed you.
And their Goldfinger sauce. Oh, my God. Oh. So good. So good.
But, why is it I barely ever see any other place that has a cheeseburger on garlic bread? You know what I mean? I didn't think that was that rare of an idea. I've lived in Illinois and Florida. I've never seen it. But props to the Winking Lizard and the Bowman's Burger for that.
Well, they do it right. They do it right, for sure. Especially their beer around the world tour that they do. That's fun. That's just fun.
Yeah, I actually got the sweatshirt one time, but by the time I washed it twice, it no longer fit me, and I wasn't quite sure if that was how I washed it or all the beer having the effect of getting that. But yeah, that's where I tried Monty Python's beer for the first time. Monty Python, not just the funny troupe that does movies, man. It was pretty good. Well, what about your beer that you were just talking about now?
It's good. It's good. I really like this. This is nice. I don't think Fatheads ever does me wrong, but this is a good beer.
Excellent.
Look at the color. It's a nice color. It's good. But as you would say with Monty Python, and now for something completely different.
Completely different. Yes.
We're here to talk to the Cleveland sports fan about Cleveland sports, commiserate, have a therapy session, liquid libations, half off appetizers, tip your waitress, all the good stuff. And if you ever want to get in touch with us, happyhourintheland@gmail.com. Reach out to us if you have any thoughts. We might read them on the air later on. I have this one. This note I got from Allie that says you suck. I don't know what that means, but I'm completely kidding.
A review that we'll have to analyze over and over again to try and figure out what that viewer meant.
Right, exactly. Anyhow, we have a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about, of course, the big thing in Cleveland sports right now is the Cleveland Browns head coach search for the guy's going to take over and see if he can get us to the promised land and the playoffs, Super Bowl possibly. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We have that to talk about. We touched a little bit about the draft, and of course, there was some big news in baseball with Kyle Tucker signing. We're going to talk about how that kind of relates to the Guardians and how that affects us going forward and I guess baseball in general, right? So some important things that we're going to touch on today. But of course, we start off with the Cleveland Browns head coaching search. Of course, if you haven't heard yet, Stefanski was fired and rehired now by the Atlanta Falcons, who, they takes over a good team. I think, what were they, like 8-9 last just missed the playoffs. He has a shot to go and do Bill Belichick, essentially. Leave the Browns and take over a good team.
Actually, I think you got a good point there, and they don't have a quarterback problem like Stefanski had for his entire career here in Cleveland, right? They have the young man and, of course, Kirk Cousins, which Stefanski worked with in Minnesota. So I also heard he got Brian Callahan, right, the old offensive line coach that left to work for his son. So already Stefanski's got great people around him, some of the best positions already covered. And here's one for you, Go. Atlanta, they play in a dome. He's going to not be in that Cleveland weather, that AFC North or NFC North, right? He'll be in the NFC South and in a dome half the time with a quarterback, with a quarterback that he knows, with an offensive line coach that he already knows. I expect him to do very good things in Atlanta, folks. Very good things. Don't be surprised. But we talked a little bit about that going, right? Not that crazy about them letting Stefanski go, but we both agreed that, hey man, sometimes you just need some new blood. And since I think we had that conversation, we saw Baltimore get rid of Jim Harbaugh, Pittsburgh get rid of Mike Tomlin, and just recently Buffalo get rid of their head coach Sean McDermott. And now that McDermott's in play, man, what do you think about him? I know there's lots to talk about, but why not just get off to this guy? He's been in the weather. He knows some coaching. Seems like they took away his defensive players. What are your thoughts about him in Cleveland?
I would think it would be great. I'd love to get Sean McDermott out here. He did wonderful things. One losing seasons in like 9 years or something with the Bills. He did really fine work with that franchise. And Josh Allen, I know Josh Allen's a big player out there, but you know what? He needed some work. Obviously, I don't know. I'm not putting all the responsibility of that on Sean McDermott, but he obviously did something, or one of the coaches there did something, so Josh Allen could improve and become an NFL caliber quarterback. But I think really what I'm really shocked about his firing, because he wasn't given the players he needed to succeed. I mean, I think that you look at through his last few drafts, there was only like 2 Pro Bowlers in there, and the GM really didn't do a great job there. Didn't give him the tools that he needed to succeed. And right now, Andrew Berry, the way he's drafting and picking out these great studs this last year, if he does that again, man, and you have a coach of Sean McDermott's caliber, I think it's just a win-win for everyone. I don't know if he'll see it that way. I don't know if he'll come here, but I think it's a win-win.
Well, then you hit on my points exactly, right? They took away his defense, right? They weren't able to hold on to their defensive players. They weren't able to hold on to what they had until Josh Allen did mature. And I love the fact that you talked about how Josh Allen wasn't polished when he came out. I agree with you 100%. Guys, it takes sometimes more than a year or two, right? But now everybody, I think, will agree that he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and it's not just for Buffalo fans or anybody just rooting for Buffalo, but this was kind of Josh Allen's year, right? No Kansas City, no Lamar Jackson, right? This was Allen's year, and to be taken out that way, definitely disappointing. But is it the coach's fault? I agree with you. I think they took away his players, and you pointed to Barry and how well he's been doing. So then, what do you? So he would work then. You're up for him.
I would love it. I think, again, I don't know if he'd be interested. I think it might be a long shot for him to come here, but it would be something that I would definitely be interested in. And I know the Browns have at least reached out to see if they can talk to him. They're already kind of deep into their coaching search so far, but I know they have at least reached out and said, hey, can we have a conversation? So we'll see how that goes, of course, but you never know. I mean, I know McDermott was one of the candidates here when before he got hired with the Bills. He was a candidate here, but we passed him over for Hugh Jackson. So
that's right. 2016.
That worked.
Hugh Jackson. Yeah. Well, hey, we got 2 first-round draft picks, right? And Myles Garrett and Shador. I don't know. I don't know if he's shown enough. I think we'd all like to see more, but that's a conversation for another time. So McDermott, you're saying you'd be interested, but not sure if he would come around. What about, the Browns have got scheduled 6 second interviews. Go 6.
Yeah.
Jim Schwartz, Todd Monken, Mike McDaniel, Jesse Manite, Grant Udensky. Yeah, please help me out on any of these. And Nate Steelhouse. I know there's 6 of them, man. Which one do you like?
Well, yeah, and then of course Schwartz. We talked about Schwartz in the past. I would love to have him. And we've talked about the culture and how Schwartz would hopefully keep things somewhat the same, right? He's going to change it up a little bit, of course, to fit his style, but the defense wouldn't need to change a whole lot. So we can keep our defense with this past defense in being so good as it was this last year and keeping that intact, which would be great. And then we can just work on the offense from there. We've talked about that, and I think it's a great idea. But one of the big reasons I would like Jim Schwartz too is obviously he was a coach for the Lions. He finished with a 29-51 record. It's not ideal, right? That's not a record that you want from your coach. But what I like about him is he took over an 0-16 team. He went 2-14 the 1 year, 6-10, and then he made the playoffs. So he took an 0-16 team and took them to the playoffs, where of course they lost the New Orleans in the first round. But um, after that, they went downhill, and he didn't, and that's why I got fired. But like, just to have that in your back pocket, to take a bad team, like 0-16 team. Obviously, there's nobody there that can really help you out, and then kind of transform it to a 10-6 team just 2 years later. I think that's just a good attribute that we could all have, or that we would need here for the Browns.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, right? I couldn't agree with you more. The history, some stability, and some and a good quality reputation. Now, what would you want to do for offensive coordinator, or is that just too far down the rabbit hole for you right now?
Yeah, that's pretty far. Right now, reports are that Tommy Reese is leaving. That if he doesn't get the head coaching job, but it doesn't look like he will, because he didn't get a second interview. But reports are that he's leaving and he's going to join Stefanski in Atlanta. So that we would have to find an offensive coordinator. And yeah, I don't know who that is, who that guy is right now. Hopefully it'd be somebody that's young and innovative that can kind of be here for a few years and kind of set the world on fire, right? No matter who we get, and I know I said this with Stefanski, no matter who we get, if it's an offensive minded coach, I still want an offensive coordinator there that calls the plays. It doesn't matter, because some of these other guys that we're considering for the job haven't called plays. That's fine. You don't need to call plays. Let's get somebody in here that will call plays, and help. You can help them out as the coach, as the offensive coordinator, ex offensive coordinator. Um, it's far down. It's pretty far down the line right now for me. I would like to have somebody that is, like you said, young, innovative, and willing to kind of take some chances on some things.
Well, and that seems to be the way the direction's going, right? Is to the young and creative minds. We both are not fans of the Steelers, but say what you want. Mike Tomlin, 19 years, right, without any season under 500. That's a pretty good coach, but I think the challenge with him is that he wasn't being very creative, right? He's got that old school mentality, and what he's good at, he's the best at, right? The player relationships they would have, getting to know them, right? The direct and tough love that he would give, but just not innovative enough. And if you're talking innovative minds and you're talking about ones that are out there, you're talking about second interviews. What do you think of Mike McDaniels?
I would love Mike McDaniel. Like I said, former Browns assistant. I would like Mike McDaniel to come back and see what he can do here. I just like his personality. He's just different. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. Kind of go back to the Moneyball thing. You're not looking for the same thing over and over again. Let's look for something different that might still work. And that's what I like about him. He jokes around. He has fun. He doesn't take things too seriously. Again, that we've talked about how that was also a knock on him, right? Where maybe the players got a little too lax. If he can learn from it, I think that's huge. I think if he can learn from it and become a little bit better, I think that would work for him tremendously and work for here in Cleveland. So I do like him as the head coach here. I think it'll be a great fit.
Does he need to match with an alpha dog? You talk about the culture, right? Joe Thomas was just recently on a podcast talking about how the culture is a big thing. He cited the Detroit Lions getting their new their head coach, and how he changed things around. You talk about Mike McDaniels, how he's quirky, right? He's got that sense of humor, makes him stands out. But does he need to be paired, with an alpha mentality? I mean, we did lose Vrabel, right, to New England, and we see how New England is, half a step away now from the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I would love to have him matched up with somebody that can maybe be a team, if you will. And I'm always a big fan of having a team run the team. Like I never liked having a head coach that would be this is mine, I'm doing everything, no one else is helping out. I would like to see him match with a good assistant coach, maybe, that can be like maybe Schwartz, I don't know, be the defensive coordinator and help run the team and help set the culture and help be the alpha. I like that a lot. That's always been my philosophy when I'm a coach, is to enable the people around me to do what they do best so the team can be better. I would love for that to happen, especially if that makes him better. Then yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. So do you have anybody in mind?
Well, yeah. Yeah, when it comes to court, I got nothing. I mean, I don't know. Um, like you mentioned Vrabel, if we could find a guy like him, that would be wonderful. But he's a dime a dozen, I'm sure. Um, I have no idea who else would be out there that would kind of fit into that role. Off the top of my head, of course, I could probably do some research and figure it out. But
Well, there you go. Or ask our viewers at home, right? Anybody out there, the alpha dog offensive or defensive coordinator, right? That might pair well with the Browns. We saw the value of Vrabel in the Browns locker room, especially when the offensive line coach fell apart last year, right? And he stepped in and he really seemed to be, a second or third coach. So that and the fact that Joe Thomas brought it up the other day, I thought was a great topic. So I hear you saying that you like McDaniel. You what do you think about Jim Schwartz as the overall head coach? Sorry.
yeah, I mean, I like it. I think that's one of my favorites for sure. Like for the reasons I mentioned previously, just again, keeping the culture same, keeping the defense the same. Know what number two pass defense is something that I think they really need to lock down so we can improve our offense. I think that's my number one choice. McDaniel is two, of course, but the name that I heard that's kind of come out of the running is this Udinsky fellow from Jacksonville. I heard that he had a Zoom meeting with the Browns, and
Mm-hmm.
I guess they used the full 3 hours that was allotted, and like he kind of blew them away. And now he's coming in for a second interview, and I guess he's kind of one of those guys that might take us by surprise. He might be one of those guys that you just don't realize, I guess, that he's a candidate, and all of a sudden, boom, we have this new head coach named Udinsky.
Well, we know a good source section in Cleveland will be okay with that. That's for sure. But you're talking
Right,
about
right.
the Jaguars offensive coordinator, right? For 2020, first time offensive coordinator. Now, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
Jaguars had a great season, right? Turning around from, what was it, 4 wins to something like 13 or 14, right? But before that, he was Carolina offensive assistant. I think before that, Vikings assistant, right? And young. Gome,
Yeah.
do you see? I mean, boy,
Yeah.
you want to talk about the young, and again, I cite Pittsburgh, right? Their last three head coaches, which span what 40 years, all started in their 30s. I think Udinsky turned just last week on the
Yeah.
12th,
Last week.
so we're
Yeah.
talking young, and
He
so
he would
boy,
be the youngest head coach ever.
wow, wow, boy, then wouldn't you? I would feel better if Schwartz would stay on even
Oh
though
yeah.
Schwartz is almost double his age, but like, come on, kid, there's a lot I could teach you and keep that defense strong and together.
Yeah, and like I've mentioned kind of previously too, Udinsky he didn't call plays for the Jaguars, but again, I don't. To me, that doesn't matter as a head coach because I would still want an offensive coordinator to come in and call the plays and someone to focus on the offense when the head coach is supposed to focus on the whole team. Obviously, his area of work would be offense, and I would expect that to have again a team, right? Another offensive coordinator just to work with, and I'm hoping that I'm hoping that can pan out
Well,
if that's indeed the hire.
but that makes perfect sense. Not get an offensive coach, offensive coordinator, young, innovated, and keep Barry around. He's got 2 first-round draft picks, and he's already came out and said, "Hey, we're gonna invest heavily in the offense." Right, so maybe that's a selling point for a head coach, offensive coordinator to come in, be like, "Hey, guys, we have a defense. We love Jim Schwartz and we have the owner and the GM saying we're going to invest heavily. We got some draft picks. God knows what Barry can do with with the money, with the salary cap and stuff like that. Who knows? Can you draft 2 offensive studs? Get another one. That's 3 out of 5 right there. And then do you buy a wide receiver? Going, what do you get? Tell me, tell me you have an idea for the wide receiver. Tell me you have something besides Jerry Judy and Tillman and who I mean, guys, I love what you've been doing so far, but tell me you've got an idea. I'm passionate about the offensive line, but wide receiver, what do you got?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've been thinking a lot about the draft. I've been looking into that and talking draft. I don't know exactly about free agents yet. I haven't really looked into that too much. But the big news from the draft aspect is that Dante Moore, the probably at least the minimum number 2 pick, if not the number 1 pick, decided to stay in school. Which wow,
Rather
really
than become
okay?
a New York Jet. That's what he was looking at, right? Jets have the number 2 overall pick. They are in desperate need of a quarterback. And now with the NIL and getting paid money, I'm sure in his brain, stay in college for another year or become the quarterback for the New York Jets.
Yeah, that's what I saw. I saw a meme after he decided to stay. It said, "You know what, Dante? If you're not, as a Jets fan, if you're not with us when we're 4-13 this year, don't be with us next year when we're 4-13." I just thought that was a funny little quip. But yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with NIL and the money he was getting. It's just hard to like I know a lot of people are saying Shador should have stayed an extra year in school because he would have got more money, but you also like kind of have that security of a multi-year contract. Like money's gonna be coming in for a few years at least, especially if you're a high draft pick like number 2, you're gonna get guaranteed money.
Oh, I
So
see.
it's hard for us to hard for me to imagine that a guy would be the number 2 pick and like, man, nah. I haven't read to see what he's holding out for. Is it a national championship? Is it a Heisman Trophy? Or is this just the money? I don't know, but you can't get much better than a number 2 pick and the guaranteed money that comes along with that. It's just shocking. Anyhow, I got off track. But with that really shakes up the whole draft and it really hurts the Browns in my opinion. Because we've talked about at number 6 who we're going to pick. It's been Francis Mamigoa from Miami that played last night. That was a right tackle. That's a possibility. Carnell Tate. Now, because of that, both of those guys might be gone when it comes to 6 because now everybody kind of slides up with one if they're taking the best available. The Jets now, I don't know what they're going to do about their quarterback situation. That's a whole different story, but everything moves up, so we might miss out on those 2 players. And now, of course, the player that I heard looking at CBS, the draft from CBS, I really like what they have us down for at 6 is they have us picking Jordan Tyson from Arizona State as a wide receiver. Now, obviously, like they have Carnell Tate already off the board, so we won't be able to get him. But I like Jordan Tyson, not mainly because, but I think it's cool because there's already a Tyson in Cleveland. Jalen Tyson plays for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and so that'd be fun to have brothers being on 2 different professional teams in Cleveland. I think that would be fun. I think they'd both enjoy that, at least being in the same city. But I think that's a good. I think that would be a good pick, and then having us kind of going down the draft board at 24 and getting the other Utah tackle that's on the board, Caleb Lomu, is Utah's left tackle. And we talked last time about how I'm aiming for a left tackle. That's who I would really love to pick. Spencer Fanow was actually the right tackle, but he's ranked higher. But I like that pick. Jordan Tyson at 6, Caleb Lomu at 24. I think that'd be a great fit for our offense.
Well, and you've got a lot of bonds already built in, like you said. You know what I mean? And Utah had a good offensive line. I'm excited about that. Keep the brothers together, right? Taylor, as you mentioned, has got some amazing stats if he can stay healthy, right? And maybe that's okay that we don't get Tate, right? Let's just not be foolish and trade draft picks up, right? For one of these 2 guys. We got too many holes to fill. And I think what you picked out is exactly where kind of I was going as well. Is look at these Utah guys, keep them together. There's bonds together that gives us more hope, and maybe give Shador Sanders some time.
Well, and I don't know if you heard this report about the quarterback situation. Obviously, it's going to depend on who the head coach is and in the direction he wants to go. But right now, I heard the plan is to be a battle, right? A quarterback battle
Sure.
to see who the number 1 is going to be between Deshaun Watson, Shador, and possibly a second, third round pick, a 4th round draft pick. They're looking at from what I've heard, they're looking at drafting a quarterback in the 2nd or 3rd day. Now, if you can get those 2 guys I mentioned, and then maybe in the 2nd round get this the Tristan Chambliss from Ole Miss, I'm in. Man, I think that'd be great. Great first 3 picks, but we'll see what happens there. Like I said, it's gonna be a QB battle to start the season. So I think Deshaun Watson has a shot at becoming the QB1 again. Just end his career here in Cleveland. I don't know. We'll see, of course, but
Boy, what does that tell you about our quarterback situation? If Deshaun Watson actually does win out and you've got a great scenario about in picking out the quarterback from Ole Miss. Now, does that mean you're just letting Dylan Gabriel go, right? 3rd round pick? What do you do you even get a 7 for him, or are you just cutting the cord right away?
I think I think they will trade him. Probably, and I think it will be best for him, right? Because I'm not, nothing to talk about his talent. I don't think he's quite got a fair shake in Cleveland. We both agree he doesn't have really the arm to go deep, but he played a few games and then everyone just focused on Shador, and I just feel bad for the kid. I don't think he got a fair shake, so I think it would be best for everyone involved, especially if we draft a quarterback, to get him to another team, to see if he can kind of do something on his own or at a different team. We'll see. I don't think, just to give him a shot. I
Hey,
don't
what
know.
if he goes to Atlanta and learns under Kirk Cousins and their quarterback, right? He'll be a solid third rounder, stays with Stefanski, stays with some of the other coaches that he knows, right? And he'll be indoors. Again, be indoors. It's difficult to throw that ball, you
Yeah.
know, in the winds of Lake Erie. So wouldn't that be an interesting kick?
Wouldn't that be amazing that Dylan Gabriel goes with Stefanski to Atlanta and becomes like a Pro Bowler, like that would be a story. That would be a story, especially after Stefanski came out and said that he wasn't a fan of the Watson deal, and then you can only imagine maybe the same thing was about Shador. Like he wasn't a fan of him, but he again was pressed into service. I'm not saying that last part's true. I know a lot of people have said that's true. I'm not saying that at all. But I think that'd be funny if that all comes all around and all of a sudden Dylan Gabriel's his quarterback and he does really well in Atlanta. That'd be funny.
That would be funny, and I have heard that about Stefanski and the Watson deal, and I think really Stefanski did the absolute best thing he could have done. He played the good soldier and never said anything bad, but the term I've been hearing is Watson exhaustion, right? Just the cost of it, from not just the draft picks, but the money and what was lost and just the everyday questioning and so forth, so on, like that. And you and I have talked before about how, as it's come out, I think Deshaun Watson never bought into Stefanski's system, and they literally had to make a deal and said, okay, there'll be in every game there'll be so many Deshaun Watson plays, and there'll be so many Kevin Stefanski. Right, I think that's actually how it worked out, and it just was an absolute train wreck. And Stefanski did the best thing he could the entire time, which was be the good soldier, do the absolute best he could, and just experienced Watson exhaustion. And so now he's
Yeah.
in Atlanta. He's already got some of the coaches that he recognizes. Boy, if he brings over his offensive coordinator, and again with quarterbacks, a running back, right? Watch out, going. Watch, he's Atlanta's going to be real tough in the next 2 to 3 years, and maybe for a while.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The Michael Penix might be the real deal. I mean, he might not be. I have no idea. But what you mentioned too about just how getting Watson to play into Stefanski's system, that always kind of infuriates me with NFL coaches, is that they get a player and they're like, "Here, quarterback, you have to run my system." And it's like that never quite made sense to me. I thought that I think that a good coach would be like, you know what, he doesn't really fit into my system. He's more of this kind of quarterback, so maybe I should kind of call more plays and play to his strengths. Just because we've seen it so many times in Cleveland with these the 42 quarterbacks, right, from 1999, how they come in and they aren't doing what they did in college, maybe because the coach is trying to fit them into this bubble over here, and it just never worked. So it just never made much sense to me.
Sure, no, well, and what better example than the Watson, right? Where our offensive coordinator was Van Pelt, and because they got the Watson, right, they let him go for greener pastures, right? All to try and make Watson work, right? We saw that with Ken Dorsey, another offensive coordinator they thought would help work with Watson, but that didn't work out as well. So I hear where you're going with that, and hopefully they'll do that for whatever quarterback, right? But does that mean, since Sanders is the current quarterback, right, that our offensive coordinator should kind of be able to work well with young quarterbacks?
Yeah, because I would like someone that I guess that can work well with quarterbacks. Maybe someone that's, well, I mean, if they're young and they've been a quarterback or something, that would be a great deal. Or if they want to hire, um, this is a bad name. There's no good comparisons that come out, but like a Flacco. I'm not saying we should sign Flacco, but someone like an old veteran like that can maybe come and be the third string quarterback who's maybe past his playing days, that can kind of like mentor these guys. That might be cool too, especially if they draft another quarterback. It might be too crowded of a room, but hey, you never know. I don't think that'll happen, but maybe someone that's a good quarterback whisperer. But Stefanski was considered a quarterback whisperer, so who knows?
Yeah, well, with Watson back in the quarterback room, I think, right, you're going to have to watch out about his ego. You know what I mean? And probably will be a rookie quarterback, so he doesn't see it as a threat. And I'd be surprised if Watson is even out there for very long, considering, the risk of him getting hurt, or, if they try to trade him. Who knows? You know what I mean? Maybe they can get some of that money back, get a 7th round pick. Who knows?
That'll be tough. I don't know if anyone would take that contract for the trade off.
Just take
if
a
we
million.
Trade him,
take a couple million. Come on.
If we do trade him, we would probably need a package, a couple draft picks in there with him, just so the team that's eating the cost of the contract would be satisfied.
Yeah, and we only got one more year, so you're right. Let's not do that. We need our draft picks. So
yeah, just put him out there, and maybe if he gets injured, we have the insurance pay for his contract.
Okay, so we got coaching, right? You got 3 of them that you're kind of okay with Udinski, Mike McDaniel, and maybe Sean McDermott, but you just don't think he'll even be interested. You like Utah wide receiver and offense. Arizona's wide receiver Taylor. That's right, and Utah's offensive lineman for the first round. When we come back, how about we talk a little baseball?
I can do that. We have a lot to talk about when Kyle Tucker signed his deal, and how that affects the Guardians, Cleveland, and the rest of baseball. We can talk about that right after this. I am Gomer. That's the professor. This is a Happy Hour in the Land. We'll be right back. What is up, Cleveland? Welcome back. This is the Happy Hour in the Land, where Cleveland sports fans get together. We drink liquid libations, talk about Cleveland sports, so we all can feel better about what's happening in Cleveland. I am Gomer. That's the professor over there. We are here to be your guides on this wonderful trail of sadness, happiness,
ever quest for hope.
Yeah. But hey, if you ever want to reach out to us, happyhourintheland@gmail.com. Reach out to us if you have any thoughts about anything we talk about. We'll share your thoughts on the air and see what we'll make heads or tails of it, if it makes any sense.
Nice.
But
nice.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Happy Hour in the Land.
So we talked about the Browns draft pick and coaches, right? Which we're going to have plenty of time to talk about for the next couple months. But the Guardians, the Guardians will have pitchers and catchers coming up soon, and it looks like maybe they've done something. Gome, is this a big enough splash for you? Can you tell us your thoughts? Give me your thoughts.
Right here, got my spring training hat on, got the cactus. February 10th. I think the first workout's February 12th for the Guardians, but February 10th, a lot of teams are reporting. And just trivia question though, do you know what team reported yesterday for spring training? There was a team already has reported, at least one, possibly several, reported yesterday.
Was it that cool banana baseball team that I'm looking at your shirt thinking maybe that was the clue? Yes? Did I get that right?
That was the clue. The Savannah Bananas had reported yesterday for spring training, so baseball's almost back. We're almost there. It's almost warm again.
I was going to say warm
4
weather
degrees this morning.
Right around the corner for all you folks. Frozen tundra.
Yep. So yeah, the Guardians have made moves, sort of.
I mean, technically, right? It's additions and subtractions, right?
Yeah, I mean, our big free agent signings this offseason is Austin Hedges, $4 million a year, and Armstrong. We got the reliever that's going to be making some money coming in to help out bolster our bullpen because we lost Jacob Junis. I forgot. I think went to the Rangers. I think, but we lost him. We lost a few other relievers, I'm sure. But we signed Pedro Avila to a minor league contract. He was with us a couple of years ago, and that was pretty much the extent of the signings that the Guardians have done. Really, kind of been silent for the most part on most of everything. Of course, this last week, since we talked last, Kyle Tucker from the Cubs signed with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Signed 4-year $240 million contract, which is outstanding. Outstanding. But we talk about how baseball is broken, and baseball is now more broken because of this. Like I said, 4 years, $240 million. That's $60 million a year. I know Tucker's a good player. He's a good player. Are you telling me he's the best player in the league? Is he the best player in the league? Because you know what? He's making more than Judge. Judge is making $40 million. So they went and took this guy and gave him $60 million a year, more than any other player. He's not even the best player in the league. I don't get it. But
and it's only for 4 years, right? Maybe if it was for one of those big long contracts, would that make sense?
A little bit more, but it's, $60 million. That's more than Shohei is scheduled to make.
Oh,
Shohei's on deferred contract, so that might be moot. But he's going to get paid for a lot longer, a lot more money. But he has an opt out after year 2. Who's going to opt out of $60 million a year? He's not taking that opt out. I can tell you that right now. You're doing better or worse.
I don't know, man. One player, $60 million, right? It wasn't our entire payroll, $60 million not too long ago. I know it's more than that now. But come on, one player. Please tell me that's part of where you were going with baseball is broken. This is insane.
Yes, because Shohei and Kyle Tucker more than the entire Indians payroll. We're projected right now, unless there's no more free agent signings or whatnot. Our payroll is $78 million, second lowest in the league. Only the Marlins are going to be lower than us. And those two guys, Tucker's almost making more than our entire payroll, almost. But you're also telling me that he's making $60 million a year. Jose Ramirez is not sitting there going, because you're saying this guy's that much better than Jose Ramirez. Jose Ramirez is making $21 million this year. You're telling me this guy's that 3 times better than Jose Ramirez?
No, I'm not.
No.
That's for sure. I'm not.
Absolutely not. But you know what really hurts us? You know how this really hurts the Guardians? Is who right now is licking their chops on the Guardians roster?
Oh, Yankees.
No, what player on the Guardians? There's a player on the Guardians right now licking his chops.
Oh, don't talk about Quan. Please don't talk about losing Quan.
Do you think that because after this contract that the Indians have any chance of re-signing Quan? I think it's gone. I mean, I think it was slim to none before, but it's gone. There's no way that Quan doesn't look at that and be like, if he's making $60 million, I can make $40 million a year.
Yeah, a lot more than
$50 million.
A lot more than the what 8 or 9 that the Guardians are going to pay him, right? That's right. They can't pay him more. It sucks.
They're not going to pay him more than Jose.
No,
because Jose by far is the best player on the team, even better than Quan.
Sure.
And I mean, so I really think this really hurts the Guardians because there's no way that we can afford Quan. Jose's. I feel so bad for Jose right now. He left money on the table to stay with us, but man, there's so much more and more. If he was a free agent right now, you know how much money he'd probably be making now. That's insane. But just for comparison's sake, Kyle Tucker's, I don't know if you WAR, wins against replacement. It's a big stat that kind of encompasses all the stats to see how good they are against a typical replacement player, how many more wins they have. Kyle Tucker's 162 game average is exactly Jose Ramirez's WAR. They're exactly the same.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I think the average again, Kyle Tucker's WAR is 1 game better than Steven Kwan's. I think because Tucker's is 5.8. I think Kwan's is 4.6 around there. So again, I think Kwan's going up there. I can make some money. It's just crazy. But, we talked about Armstrong. I mean, we're giving him $5.5 million. Like I said, Jose's making about $20 million, $21 million. Tanner Bybee's making 9.6. Kwan's making 8. I don't think there's a chance in heck that we can sign anyone to a good free agent signing.
So then it's over. We saw the Indians in the playoffs last year. Had a great time, by the way. Right? And then but the numbers that you're talking about, 60 million, right? Where Jose is getting nowhere near that. On our second best guy. Yeah. So what?
Well, and this is where it stands too. This is where it stands because this is I'm gonna tell you all this information, and then I'm gonna wrap it up all in a bow, right? Because we have the Dodgers. They're right now their payroll is projected to be $476 million. What did I just say? The Guardians' projected payroll is $78 million.
70 something, yeah.
Right, 400 $400 million difference. Now, if you take the Marlins, the A's, the Guardians, the Rays, and the White Sox, those five teams' projected payrolls are $401 million. The Dodgers are 429. There's five against one. That
Goma's Chevy Nova, which by the way translates to no go, and his Chevy Corvette are both Chevy automobiles, right? But I tell you what, I certainly know which one I would want to pick in a race.
well, now baseball faces some big problems right now because, like I mentioned that. What's the fix, right? A lot of people are saying, the commissioner's saying right now, salary cap. A lot of people are saying, no, that's not the fix. I haven't heard another offer, another solution to the problem. I've heard salary floor, which I think is ridiculous. I think a salary floor is a horrible idea. I don't think it's someone that has quite thought this through because, the Guardians, if they make the playoffs this year, that'll be something, right? I don't think it will happen, but they've always been in the bottom five payroll and they've been making the playoffs. So I don't think it's fair to force the Guardians to spend more money. But plus, you see what the Pirates have been doing this year. The Pirates have been out there trying to find someone to come to their team. They've been offering contracts left and right. They've been offering it to Schwarber. They offered money to Tucker. They offered the Japanese player Okamoto. They offered him contract. Nobody wants to come to Pittsburgh. Why? Because the culture there has been terrible. They've been losing. So they've been trying, but no one really wants to go to Pittsburgh. So if they want to get players, they really have to do some fancy adjusting. They have to overpay. So like, it's not fair to say, hey, Pittsburgh, you need to pay more. You need to pay more, but no one wants to come there. It's not that's not fair. And plus, what it's all it's going to do is drive up prices because they're going to end up buying the lower level players, but have to give them more money so they meet the threshold of the salary floor. It doesn't make any sense.
I hear you, bud. But if you do the other way, right? It's the anti-capitalism argument, isn't it? Right? If you have
I don't think
so. If you have a cap and say, but I've got more money and this is capitalism and it's all survival of the fittest in the capitalism world, and 450 million to 73 million, that's just business America, right? Unless you're going to have regulations to tell people what to do with their money. And that, my friend, is where I was going with all that, right? It's got to be tough to tell these billionaires who buy politicians, right, who can move a team out of a city, right, because of all the money that they spend on politicians, right? It's hard to tell these owners that they can't buy an athlete or rent them for a couple of years. I think that's terrible buying, right? But you get where I was going with that.
Well, I don't think it's anti-capitalistic. I do think maybe because they're still allowed to make more money, right? Because right now the Dodgers' revenue is $752 million, or that's what it was in 2024. So $752 million. From what I understand, they've got Shohei. They have more income now coming from the Japanese markets, but they have 752. Oh, that's the most in the major leagues. So even if you cap that, even if you cap their payroll, they're still going to make that much money. They're still allowed to be capitalistic pigs and take in all the money. But when it comes to like the Guardians, right? They have $336 million. They're 17th on revenue. They're not even half of what the Dodgers are, and so it's going to be hard for them to keep up with. Meanwhile, the Dodgers also have a $332 million. They get $332 million annually just from their TV contract, which in LA, understandable, right? But in Cleveland, we don't have that because the whole Bally's mess up where they had to abandon Bally's. We don't have a TV contract. We have to depend on people paying the $99.99 to MLB TV so they can subscribe to the Guardians, and then they're kind of at the whims of who buys that package. So right now, right there, just on the TV deal alone, the $332 million that the Dodgers get, Guardians only get $332 million annually anyways. So it's like, again, how can you compete with that when that other team is just getting that much money in a TV contract?
What was that? What was the TV contract that we had for a while? Was it Sports Time Ohio? Wasn't that it? Sports Time Ohio. The tribe
Well,
tried to do that, right? When the Yankees had the Yes Network, right, and
mhm.
just a broadcast in New York City, just the city, folks, was $100 million, right, of profit. So I hear what you're saying, right? But again, we're talking about telling businessmen how to run their business, right? So why do the Guardians not have their own Yes network, right? Are they bad businessmen? Is it because the draw is more in LA, New York, Boston? Which, ironically, Gome, correct me if I'm wrong, but those are the highest payrolls, aren't? Isn't that what we're talking about here? L.A., New York, throw in Philly, and I think you got
Yeah,
the
Philly.
four highest payrolls right there. So, how
Yeah.
do you deal with that? How do you, if you're just talking about the local customers, right? And you're not going to have a salary cap, then it's a free for all. I don't know the answer, man, but 450 million compared to like 75 million, guys, that's not a fair race. That's not a
Well,
sport
that's
anymore.
what you just said too. Is the problem that baseball is going to solve, because it's going to come down to two things: people losing interest in baseball,
Yeah.
right? If there's a work stoppage, people are going to lose interest in baseball. If there's not a work stoppage, people are going to lose interest in baseball, because you know what? How many Guardians fans are not going to watch this year because we have no shot of winning it? How many teams fans are going to not watch because the Dodgers have already won the World Series in their eyes and that their team has no shot?
Well, that's
So
that's what
people
I
are,
mean. That's what I mean. Why spend those elaborate ticket prices, right? You and I were out in left field on on a ticket day, and they were like $70, and we were like, okay, this is not so bad. But when you double that to 150 plus parking and all the hot dogs and stuff like that to a game that you're not expected to win, this sounds like I'm
well,
sorry, Chicago Blackhawks fans, but this is starting to sound like the old '80s Chicago Blackhawks, right? Where the owner was famous for, "I own the team because I make money, not because I'm winning games," and that's what we have to avoid. And that's what I hear you saying, right? I'm not taking. Would you take your kids, right, to a baseball game that's going to cost you hundreds of dollars and not expected to win? The players aren't really that good or meant to hang around for a while.
well, that's in the end is who's going to end up paying for these contracts, right? Kyle, like I said, Kyle Tucker, $60 million a year, not even the best player in baseball. So from there, contracts are going to go up from there. But who's going to end up paying for it is the fans. Because guess what's going to happen to ticket prices? Guess what's going to happen to concessions? Guess what's going to happen to parking? All
It's too
that goes
much.
up, and
It's
it's
too
already
much.
starting to get too much.
It's too much.
So again, this needs fixed, and people are saying, "Oh, but the fans are going to walk away if there's a work stoppage." I think there needs to be a work stoppage, because you're losing fans anyways. Because fans aren't going to watch this because the Dodgers are going to run away with it, and it's already decided.
Right. Or
I know,
Philly or New York,
yeah.
right?
Well, New York has spent a lot of money this year. I know they got rid of Pete Alonso, but they got some good characters to kind of go in there and help them out. But again, I don't think many Cleveland fans are thinking that the Guardians have any shot to win the World Series this year. And it's with our revenue, it's just not feasible to go and spend that kind of money and become a contender, if you will. They can make the playoffs, but they're not. They may not get very far out. I don't know. But what needs to happen is there needs to be a work stoppage, and the owners need to fight it out. And they may not win it, but they need to solve this problem, because they have the luxury tax cap, where if you go over, you need to pay some money. And you know how much the Dodgers paid this last year? It was like $160 million in taxes. This was just because they had these players on their payroll. They didn't pay anybody. It's basically throwing money away. $160 million is more than the Indians' entire payroll, and the Dodgers pretty much just flushed that down the toilet. I think we did the math. I think it comes down to, like, each team, like Cleveland, will get an extra $8 million because of it in revenue sharing from the Dodgers. But that's not going to help us. That's not going to help us get there.
So I think what you did is you nailed it on the, what is the core issue of the problem? It's that these penalties are not enough anymore, right? For these multi-billionaires, right? And it's not just here in sports, folks, but I think if you look at some of the penalties for financial crimes, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, that's nothing to these multi-billionaire companies or owners. And Gomer, you're making the perfect argument. What's 160 million dollars to the Dodgers, who then can dominate baseball and dominate, Southern California sports and so forth, right? If that's the price, think about all the not just the tickets, right, but the merchandising, the shirts, the pennants, and stuff like that. That's worth money. What about in the movie business, right? Isn't Hollywood right there in Southern California? So it's a shame. There's got to be, at least in my mind, it's got to be a much, much larger penalty. But who's going to agree to that? Right? What I mean, aren't the rules of
Well,
baseball agreed by the owners? And the owners are saying, wait a minute, if we try to make more money in being better businessmen, then we're going to punish ourselves. I just don't see it happening. And
well, I do think that you talk about the owners. I think it only takes 8 owners to kind of to put the process into gear, that they need to change something, they need to fix it. And with this happening, with the Dodgers signing Kyle Tucker, I bet there might be 8 owners out there whose revenues, like the Indians, the Tigers, White Sox, where the revenues are smaller. There might be 8 owners out there that says, "Hey, yo, we need to fix this." Because even though the Dodgers are signing all these players too, because they also lost 4 draft picks because of it, because of how much they went over. They're signing players with qualifying offers. They've lost 4 draft picks. They don't even care, because their entire starting lineup is free agents. They don't need to sign people. And what are they going to do if they have any players in AAA that are ready to be major league players? They're just going to trade them away because they don't need them. They have all these free agents on their team that they don't need to kind of build a farm system, but they're still going to have them. They're still going to have guys that come up and be ready to go. And I think it's just the rich is going to keep getting richer.
well, and don't we see that, right? And because again, they pass it on to the masses, and that's what you're talking about the work stoppage, and about the players being wise enough to know that, listen, you're killing the Pittsburgh market. Thank goodness that they've got an amazing, beautiful field and some great fans.
Beautiful field.
Beautiful field, right? But yeah, yeah, this may be my challenge is the fact that you're telling billionaires to monitor themselves, and I think we all know that doesn't work out very well.
Well, I think it's different coming to mind. Like I said, they're free to take in all the money they want. I think it's the product they put on the field and how much they're going to spend to make competitive teams. I think that's something different. Yeah, it's going to take away if a cap will take away the advantage from the Dodgers and Yankees and Mets and stuff like
But
that.
again, if one owner has unlimited funds and another owner does
Mm-hmm.
not have unlimited funds, then why not the unlimited funds just buy the team? And that's what we're saying is the problem. And so I think it's absolutely relevant. I think it's absolutely the same thing. I think you've got to put restrictions on it. When you look at the American economy, right, even from basically World War II up until, the famous deregulations of Clinton, right, you can constantly see the effects of these deregulations and how the rich get ungodly richer, right, and the poor and the social services seem to go down. And that's what we're talking about with these with these owners, right? If the Cleveland Guardians do not have unlimited funds and the LA Dodgers do, and there are no restrictions, then it's not a sport anymore. It's not even. It's capitalism. It's I'm going to buy the team. And therefore, it's not even. It's not an event, right? I'm not going to spend hundreds of dollars to go see a sporting event when it's not a sporting event. It's David versus Goliath, right? It's going to turn into college football where there's only one or a handful of good games all year long, and that all the teams at the bottom of the division, they don't even matter anymore, right? Because
Right.
LA can come in and sweep in. The Boston Red Sox can come in. Philadelphia can come in, right? So you're going to lose all your revenue, you're going to lose all your fans because one owner has unlimited funds and the others don't. You've got to make parameters. I mean, when you and I were playing games as a kid, there were rules, there were parameters. What
Mm-hmm.
are the parameters on these owners that make it fair? Because what we're talking about capitalism. We're talking about how do you spend your money. Hey, Gome, you've got unlimited money and you can outbid me. But in this arena, we're telling you, the rich man, you can't do that. I think it's going to be difficult. And to be honest with you, I think we can all turn to Jim Brockmeyer because I believe they kind of predicted all this by season 4.
Yeah.
Tip of the hat, Jim Brockmeyer.
Yeah. Well, and I think the hardest sell is not going to be the owners. I don't think it's going to be the hardest sell to convince the owners that they need to do this. It's going to be the players, because the players are going to be like, "Whoa, you're telling us we need to take less money."
Okay.
And that's going to be the hardest sell. And I get that, but at the same time, how can any of the players, sit there and be like and defend what's happened in baseball? I'm sure they will. Some cocky mimey argument that says that they need to make more money, but I think that they do need to be limited. I mean, honestly, honest to God, I know I'm not a rich man. I know this, but you know what? I'm good. I'll take more money but I'm not out there. You know what? What's the difference between $60 million a year and $40 million a year? I have no idea.
But that's subjective, right? What if somebody says, "Well, I want that extra money, and I can make it"? This is America, Jack.
Right? Yeah, but what's the difference? What's the difference?
The difference is in sports, you've got the Dodgers versus the Guardians at a $450 million payroll versus.
I'm talking about players, though. I'm talking about players.
The players don't go to Pittsburgh, as you said. The players will not go to Pittsburgh.
To a player, what's the difference between $60 million and $40 million a year? Can you ever spend that much money in your lifetime, especially over a 4-year contract?
If they want more, they can get more.
No, I get that, but what's the difference? Oh, no, you're forced to take $40 million. You're still going to live a great life instead of $60 million.
But in America, they get to choose.
Not necessarily. Not if there's rules that are saying that you can't make this in this sport.
You're getting rules, and now you're putting limitations or shackles on the owners who want to spend more money to get those championships.
Right, but again, there needs to be limitations, because again, fans won't watch if one team rules the whole roost.
Brother, so there needs you and I are 100% on the right page that there needs to be rules. What I'm saying is that we're talking about rules on money and money spending, and this is America, right?
Yeah, but money spending is different than money earning. They're still gonna earn all that money, and they're forcing the owners to make more money. I don't think many owners will complain about that.
No, I think it's the owners. How much can they spend? Right? You just said it. The players can make as much money as they want, but the owners have to pay that. So again, if we're talking about the highest payroll is $10 million, and 5 years from now it's $50 million, the owners, right? There's your spending cap, right? So you can only buy 2 or 3 Aaron Judges versus what the Dodgers are doing and what the players are choosing not to go to Pittsburgh for.
Yeah.
It's money. It's got to come from one way or the other. You know what I mean? And I agree with you that there's got to be limitations. 100%. I'm just saying it's going to be challenging because you're talking about money.
No, absolutely. I do think it'll be challenging, and I'm probably one of the biggest baseball fans that you'll know.
You are the biggest baseball fan I know.
Ever since '94, when there was a work stoppage, and people go, "Oh, I'm never going to watch baseball again," and you're going to get that again if there's a work stoppage. No, I'm never going to watch baseball again because there's these greedy SOBs, blah blah blah. But I think it needs to happen. I think there needs to be a fight. How long the fight goes, I don't know. I'd love to see scab players, but again, they almost had that in '94. But I think there needs to be a fight.
To '94. Wow, are you going back to '94? I remember that, right? Wasn't that the first year of the Jake? Or the second year, right, of the Jake?
Well, the strike cut us off in '94 because they were poised to make the
playoffs,
wild card. Yeah,
yes.
They were going to win the first wild card ever, but '94 it toppled and they went on strike, canceled the World Series, and then in '95 in a strike shortened season, we went 144. The '95 Indians, to me the greatest team ever to take the field. 100 wins, 44 losses, only to lose to the Atlanta Braves in the World Series, which still kind of irks me, but nonetheless. Baseball's broken. It needs to be fixed. We'll see what baseball does. After this year, there lots of things are going to be happening after this year. We'll see what happens. If you have any ideas on how to fix baseball besides the salary cap or salary floor, please email us at happyhourandland@gmail.com.
And thank you for being with us and understanding why we are liquid libations, why we are happy hour in the land, is so that you know that you are not alone and that there is medicine out there for you. Gom, I thank you for this, and I cheers to you and all our viewers at home for this wonderful session. Clink to you, and look forward to the next one.
I'm looking forward to the next one already. But I just want to thank everyone again for joining us. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you guys again soon. I am Gomer. That's the Professor. This is Happy Hour in the Land. Come visit us again. Like, subscribe, follow, whatever you need to do to give me a hug. I'm in. But once again, good night. Paul Sorrento, wherever you are. See ya.